Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams. I don't know where we're going to end up tonight, where the class will end. And I also have to be careful because if I speak too much, I won't be able to speak at all. It'll just stop because what can I do? Basanta Prabhu is bringing out so many sweet memories the last 2 days. And memories are a dangerous thing because you can become absorbed in them, and then words can just become tears. We don't want that. So I'll have to be careful. So let's see what we can do. So I don't have a real plan, but I have an introduction, and let's see where it goes from there. Since we came 8 days ago, we were talking about the beauty of Lord Chaitanya, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the Yugal, or combined form of the divine couple Sri Radha Krishna, and discussing about really the different moods of our gurus and their focus. Should we focus on Krishna? Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, Lord Chaitanya is Radha, the mood of Radha. But if Lord Chaitanya is with the mood of Radha, then she wants us to focus on Krishna. If Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, in the mood of Krishna, he wants us to focus on Radha, and we're stuck in between what to do. And Lord Chaitanya said, go and preach about Krishna. And Lord Nityananda said, okay, I'll go and preach about you. And he went everywhere and he spoke about Gauranga. Synthesized spirituality. We began with that, holistic spirituality, the Yugal Kishore, the youthful divine couple in Vrindavan, Radha Krishna, how they came together as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And spiritual life, sometimes it can feel like you're in a whirlpool, swirling around in the bliss. Who to think about, who to remember, who to worship. The gopis, this happens even when they're thinking of Krishna, what to speak of Radha, Krishna, Mahaprabhu, Gaurnitai, Gorgadadhar. The gopis, when they think of Krishna's feet, then the day will just pass meditating on the beauty of Krishna's feet. And then if they see the beautiful face of Krishna, that's it. They just become lost in the beauty of his beautiful face. Our topmost scripture, the Bhagavad Puran, the 5 chapters that describe Krishna's rasa dance are described to be his smile, the smile of Krishna. Sweet, crooked smile. So what to remember, who to focus. But I'm kind of meditating on memory or remembrance. And it's an important part of our spiritual life. The 3 most important limbs in our path. It's called essentially, intrinsically perfect bhakti. That's how it's described. Swarup Siddha Bhakti. By its very intrinsic nature, it's perfect. And that's to hear about the beloved, your Lord, to speak about your beloved or to sing about your beloved, and to remember. Remembrance is very important. It's called smaranam in Sanskrit. Memory, remembrance. What do we remember in life? So I was thinking about this when you were sharing your memories or remembrances of Gurudev. Life is very busy. We've been very busy. But just today, at about 4:45, I thought, okay, they're going to ask me to speak. What to speak about? Let's speak about remembrances. But when we speak about remembrances, how much time do we have? 1 hour? How many memories are there in life? What are we going to focus on? We should focus on what is most, I would say, most naturally, spontaneously occurring. That's why I'm saying I don't know exactly where we're going to go. And I also know we'll have to be cautious because memories can be very beautiful, memories can also be very painful, and the program must go on. Sometimes in the Brijbasi programs, the program stops. Why? Because everyone just ends in tears, and then everyone, if it goes too long beyond that, everyone just falls senseless. Finished program. One time there was a great saint, and he lived such an ecstatic life with all his spiritual family. When he gave up his life in ecstasy, all of his intimate associates immediately gave up their life in ecstasy. And they all got samadhi at the same time in the same place. There's a place we go there. It's beautiful. They all are just all together, remembering their beloved, the Lord. They went to him. We think what they died. When we achieve perfection in this life, spiritually we become born and we realize our spiritual form and nature, our identity, our relationship with the Lord. And then this body is left just like an old skin of a snake or the skin of a caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. Very naturally. For the realized souls, very naturally they'll give up this life and achieve their spiritual, eternal life. And so we see that sometimes in the lives of our saints. Actually, that's the final stage of samadhi. Samadhi is when you become so absorbed in your beloved that you just go there. You are transported to that place. But the Brajbasis, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, they have to hold it together. I've seen this, here's the first memory you could say is coming up. One memory of Prabhuji. And this was about 5 or 6 years after Gurudev left. And he's very good at holding it together. And the day before Gurudev's disappearance festival, all the devotees, about 200 Western devotees, and Indians also, but for some reason or other, he's giving special attention to the Western devotees who are otherwise sometimes kind of disregarded, especially in India. So we had about 150, 200 of us. When COVID started, we had 200 of us living in Vrindavan, Western devotees from all over the world. People think, is diversity good or bad? I hear this in America. And I think I grew up in Kunj, Mathura, and it was really the most diverse place in terms of people from all around the world that I think probably existed in a holistic, pure way. And it's because everyone's values were harmonious, and with the central value being divine love and divine service and pure devotion, with the central personality guiding us in that, into that realm of grace. So Prabhuji, he was giving class on Gurudev. After all the decorations, what would we do? We'd decorate 3 floors of the temple with flowers. And one thing about Prabhuji is, see, already I'm going into that channel. I was saying in the beginning, are we going to meditate on Krishna? Are we going to meditate on Radha? Are we going to meditate on Mahaprabhu and Nityananda? And I was thinking I want to glorify Gurudev and talk about Gurudev, but who taught me to have love for Gurudev? I was just a kid. Gurudev told me, be a monk, serve my mission, and he captured our hearts. But still, when you're a child, what do you know? The person who taught me to love Gurudev is Prabhuji. That's the person who gave us that focus. What is the importance of Guru Bhakti? Orienting your life around devotion to someone who's truly a living saint, someone who's truly, you could say, walking with God. We had that book series, Walking with the Saint, for Gurudev. And why is he a saint? Because he is walking with God. That means he is walking with Radha Krishna, the most sweet form of the Lord. In his morning walk, sometimes he would let people talk and ask questions, and sometimes he would just keep everyone quiet. I've also seen this walking with Prabhuji. We've done so many parikramas with him. Especially Prabhuji, he hates anyone talking during parikrama. If you want to go on parikrama with Prabhuji, you stay back like 30, 40 feet. Even your chanting should be soft so it doesn't disturb his meditation. He's walking with God in his relationship. We think there's many kinds of God. Can you walk with God? He's just a spirit. He's just an energy. But you see the Vaishnavas, if anyone's walking with God, they are. Because without the eyes, how do we know we're saying it? But I would be bold enough to say, without any doubt, if anyone in this world is walking with God, it's our gurus that we've seen in our real life. Not gurus in general, because there's good, there's bad, like anything. But those that we've seen with our eyes, you've seen. I've known Gurudev since I was 9 in 1996. And that's knowing him as he comes 2-3 times a year, seeing him 2-3 times a year in festivals, but then living for 15 years in India, serving continuously every day, all day, from 4 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night, seeing the Vaishnavas, just continuously absorbed in bhakti, not as a austerity, not as a form of discipline, not as a form of regulative practice, simply out of love, serving, absorbed. They transcend, there's two kinds of when you're initially developing bhakti, everyone likes bhakti when it's sweet or it's beautiful or it suits your kind of mood. Some people like it more strong, macho. Some people like it more soft and sweet, according to your temperament. But when you transcend that, bhakti doesn't even have to externally be sweet, because it's by its very nature, it's sweet on its own. The preparation doesn't have to be even taste right. You see some deities of the Lord who are crafted by these pure saints, like Jagannath. Krishna, can you even see him there? It's transcended the structure, and it's just pure substance. Just pure. We've seen this with Prabhuji, because sometimes I was also thinking about this. Oh, Radha Kunj is loud and dusty and noisy and dirty. You walk outside and there's garbage. You go on Parikrama and people are honking the horns. Do you still have taste for it? Or does everything have to be perfect? All the environment has to be sweet so that you can enjoy it? The Vaishnavas transcend that, and everything for them is blissful because they have that pure love. So back to the story, Prabhuji was trying to speak about Gurudev after the whole decoration was done, after we spent $1,000 on flowers. So many, which story do we go to? One time, a couple years after Gurudev left, we threw a feast in Jagannath Puri. Jayadev asked for Puri stories. So we threw a feast in Jagannath Puri, where Prabhuji bought every single preparation you could buy from Lord Jagannath's prasad. So there was 40-50 preps, and in massive quantities, after inviting thousands of people, after feeding all the Brahmins, the Pandits, batch after batch. We were serving prasad till 1 a.m. Everyone came. And then giving them beautiful tiffins, garlands, asans, clothes. How much love. So who to speak about? It's hard. But the person who taught us what is the meaning of Guru Bhakti, how can we not honor that? So I remember in Radha Kunj, he was trying to speak about Gurudev and he couldn't. And he was just saying how samadhi comes where you just want to leave this world. The pain of separation is so great. The pain of the remembrance and the pain of the desire to be with and serve your dear, dear Guru, who ultimately becomes your guide and associate and friend in the spiritual world. How can you tolerate that? And that was 6 months or so before Tirtha Maharaj left. And he was saying how Gurudev needs a sevak. And he was thinking, I will go. And he was saying, I will go, I want to go. I don't know why I'm here. Generally he would hold it together and be kind of, because also imagine for us, all the kids, no, it's difficult. But when Tirtha Maharaj said, he said, all right, now Gurudev has a sevak, and Gurudev told me I have to stay. So we said, okay. But doesn't make it easier necessarily. I would say for a span of 4 or 5 years, every day Prabhuji would talk about some meeting with Gurudev, some question and answer with Gurudev, some desire of Gurudev, not past tense, present tense. Gurudev's desiring this, Gurudev's wanting this, Gurudev is saying this, Gurudev's doing this, Gurudev is going there, Gurudev is going there. So this is the power of remembrance. After our Gurudev left, we began 1 year of remembrances of Gurudev. Prabhuji began giving lectures morning and evening for 1 year on the glories of Gurudev. And not just the glories of Gurudev in this pastime, in this life, but in his pastimes in Gaur-Mandal, Navadvip with Mahaprabhu, in his pastimes with Radha Krishna, and in Navadvip, Jagannath Puri and Vrindavan, Olive Braj. And that took 3-4 months. And that's when we started this book, Sri Guru Darshan. At first he said, don't publish anything, keep this for the intimate group of devotees, as you were talking about last night. Why? When everything is intimate, everything is sweet, and the mood is fixed, and if it becomes too big, naturally, people mix their own spice in the prep, and sometimes spices are too bitter, too spicy. So intimate is good. But afterwards, it's also good to be given to the world, and so we started working on publishing Guru Darshan. And what was the point of this book? Just don't forget Srila Gurudev, because it's not every day that such a person is born, that comes to this world and gives this gift of mood, of braj, in a way that is substantial, that is real, that isn't far away, something you dream about or pray for, but is physically embodied in their form. And that was what it was like for Gurudev, with us, I would say. So we started working on this book, and Prabhupada would start giving dictations in Hindi. At one time we were in Pune, doing some, traveling, and at that point we were kind of refugees traveling around India. And he was giving 2 lectures a day in Hindi dictations, 1 lecture a day in public, and Hari Krishna Prabhu was there, I was there, one boy Hari Mohan was there, and a lot of our team was in South India after we left Mathura. And at that point he was so eager to spread the glories of Gurudev. He said, this is the most important thing. But what can I do? Basanta Prabhu was sharing so many memories, so naturally memories you're also involved in. Even though we shouldn't tell our own stories, we're involved in our own memories usually to some degree. So I remember I've always kind of been pulled between different services, and the 2 primary services I've been pulled between are cooking and publication. I was always pulled between the 2. And so most of my memories in temple life are based on cooking. Because how often you're going to remember, okay, I was sitting on the computer typing for 8 years. I remember sitting in class and typing, I remember sitting in the room and typing, I remember laying down and typing.
That's true.
Standing up and typing.
He figured out a way to type out you was
After typing so much at a certain point, I got what they call
tendonitis.
Yeah, so I just started dictating. We've had many iterations, so I have memories of that, of course. Mostly those memories are climbing up mountains, because we were working on Guru Darshan for 5 years, and that's actually how I really became close with Basanta Prabhu. We were cooking in the kitchen together, cleaning, but you become very close through mutual service. Mm-hmm. And so we started working on Guru Darshan together, and it was very beautiful. Lalita came, Radha came, when just a tiny baby, 11 months old. So even before you remember, you were walking around Mathura and Jagannath Puri, Navadvip also. Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing up this beautiful book we worked on is because it's kind of the thesis I have for us tonight. About a life well spent, and about a life well spent building beautiful memories, not just in the past but in the present. Because beautiful memories, you think, oh, I remember that, it was nice. But in our present times, we're building future memories to think about, in the past, in the future to think about. And this becomes the spiritual world where we're always when we become perfect at building perfect memories, we don't even have to remember the old memories. We just live in the perfect moment all the time. You can think about it like that, right? What's the need to remember the past if you're living perfectly in the present? Sometimes the gopis remember the past only in separation from Krishna. And with meeting, sometimes there's fear of separation, but the past becomes a dim shadow because you're so blissful in the present. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because in our Guru Darshan, I was asking Prabhuji, what's the thesis of this book? What's our offering? We wanted to offer little poems, little couplets or little quatrains at the end or at the end of volumes. And so he expressed his mood about what was the offering. And for me, it's kind of why we focus on Gurudev and Krishna, Guru and Krishna, or Guru and Radha Krishna. He said, he gave a beautiful metaphor, and we wrote it in this way. As a flame reaches for the sun, as a river seeks the ocean, following your love, here we place these flowers of remembrance. And then he said, a very mystical phrase. He said, I am that you are here. He was saying this about the book. I am that you are here. What does he mean? I exist because of you. And therefore, without you, how can I exist? That's the paradox, the riddle. I exist because of you. A flame exists because of the sun. So what is the flame doing in its perfect state? It's reaching towards the sun. Every water droplet exists because of its reservoir of its source. And so it's flowing towards its source. If you have a stream, it's going towards a lake or the ocean. A river is going towards the great lake or from the lake to the ocean. It exists because of its source. And its perfection is therefore seeking its source. It's not meandering off in its own and then becoming stagnant and drying up. Imagine a stream that just flows off into nowhere, into a desert and dries up. In separation, what happens to that stream? The sun takes it and then finds anyhow its way to go back home. So in our faith, in our line, this is our prayer, that let us go back to God. Let us go to Him who is our source. And that is according to our relationship, our rasa. But without our Guru, how are we able to do that? Because God is transcendent, and with our material body and senses, we cannot perceive the transcendent. We have faith and we pray, but Guru comes into form as a way to help us perceive the reality of God and guide us towards that reality. And when He disappears, it's ultimately the final lesson for us in His manifest presence to follow His footsteps ultimately to that final abode. When He disappears, Prabhuji wrote, following your love. We're trying to follow Gurudev's love. There's a beautiful verse by Rupa Goswami where he says, the essence of all spiritual advice is to follow the footsteps of those who have pure love. That's what he says, the highest advice. Follow the footsteps of those who have pure love of God. Because if you follow their footsteps, that will bring you to God. But how do you follow their footsteps when now they've gone to Him? Therefore, Prabhupada said, through remembrance. Mm-hmm. Through remembrance, you can continue to follow their footsteps. And Gurudev would go on morning walks, and sometimes he would have question and answers, and sometimes they would stop. In Hawaii, there's a famous story that different associates of Gurudev tell, how Gurudev was sitting down and he started to pick flowers, little flowers and leaves. And at one point he just started picking blades of grass. Because at first, okay, flowers, but then you become so absorbed in your meditation. In this example, Gurudev was absorbed in Radharani's service. And so you're no longer picking flowers in this world, you're picking flowers in that world. So he just was picking blades of grass. And one devotee, we heard this actually, this is a very sweet story, we heard it from a devotee who recently passed. We heard it first from Prabhuji and put it in Guru Darshan. But then I heard it directly from the person who was there. And I'm 99.9% sure this is the person I heard it from a couple years ago in New Braj. He gives remembrance every year. And he would say how he somehow or other got to go outside when Gurudev was alone doing this. And Gurudev was in bhav completely. And he was saying, oh, come help me pick flowers. It was very sweet. This was this, man, strong, big guy. But with Gurudev in Kirtan, he would just dance and dance and dance. His name is Rupa Manohar Prabhu. He recently passed away, only a few weeks ago. And he had so much love for Gurudev, so much love for Prabhupada. And he had an interesting situation where he didn't know who to focus on, Prabhupada or Gurudev. Who to focus on, Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru. He didn't know who to focus on. He had so much devotion and love for Prabhupada, he thought, how can I have any place for anyone else in my heart? But what Gurudev did coming to the West for Prabhupada disciples is he awakened their love for Prabhupada in higher and higher levels and deeper levels. Higher and higher levels of realization, and then deeper and deeper levels of realization. Gurudev would say, you know some of the height of his glories, up to a certain level, like a mountain, but the full height of his glories are covered by clouds. The mountain is so high. And you can't see that from your perspective, from your position. And you don't have any idea about the depth of his glories. So I've come to teach you the depth of his glories and the height of his glories, because I know him more than you. I knew him in this world. He knew him since the 40s, but he's his eternal friend. Prabhupada once wrote a letter to Gurudev saying, we have an eternal relationship of love. He wrote that in his letter to Gurudev. There were hundreds of letters back and forth between Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev. So Rupa Manohar Prabhu didn't know who to focus on, Prabhupada or Gurudev, but when Gurudev came into his life, he told these beautiful stories how there's a few people who would tell these stories, Chiranjeev Prabhu and other devotees who really knew Gurudev. And they would see Gurudev, and then they would see Prabhupada sitting next to him in a more subtle spiritual form when he was giving class. One of these devotees is Madhuri Prabhu, a very dear disciple of Srila Swami Prabhupada. And externally he's very gruff. He was Prabhupada's bodyguard. You won't find a tougher guy than him. He's very tough. He was Prabhupada's bodyguard, and usually bodyguards mean they want to be a bodyguard. Does Prabhupada or Gurudev need a bodyguard? But he was very tough, so he gives that service. But inside it's very soft and very sweet. Gurudev gave him the service of, you would never think Gurudev would give him the service. Gurudev gave him the service of daily giving classes on the very sweet books of Radhakrishna's pastimes. You see this guy, you're like, really? And he gives the sweetest classes. And we go there to New Vrindavan and do programs, and Vilap Kusumanjali, Radha Rasa Sudanidhi, and one after another very sweet, beautiful books. Prem Bhakti Chandrika, he reads from our books as well. And he would tell this story of how he saw Gurudev and Prabhupada were one at heart, and they were channeling each other. That means they were very close friends. Gurudev would say, my Shiksha Guru and Priya Bandhu. Shiksha Guru means like your Guru, who is more like a friend or a mother. Not your father, who is the initiating Guru, but like your mother and friend. Gurudev would say like that to Prabhupada. And he would say, my Priya Bandhu, my dear friend. And when Mahabodhipur was hearing from Gurudev, he also had this question, should I focus on Prabhupada or Gurudev? And Prabhupada had told him, he had only told this to him, and he had never told anyone. And Prabhupada had told him, every day I want you to recite this verse, a specific verse from the Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadhami buddhi yogam yenamam upayanti te. Krishna says, for those who are always absorbed in thoughts of me with love, worshipping me with love, I give them the intelligence to come to me. And I thus bring them to me. And Prabhupada told him, recite this verse every day. And then he was hearing Gurudev give class and thinking, Prabhupada, Gurudev. And after the class, Gurudev came in and put his hand on his heart and said, always remember this verse. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. And another time after that, he said, when he was hearing Gurudev speak, he saw Prabhupada sitting next to him with a big smile. And he said after that, every time he would see Gurudev, he would always see Prabhupada. And understand that the Shiksha Guru, that means someone who comes in your life as a guide, who helps you understand real Guru. For you, generally there's a primary Guru, but the person who helps you understand, develop relationship with them, take care of you. Shiksha Guru is the one who takes care of you. The one who nourishes and nurtures you like a mother. How can you not have place for them in your heart? Is it possible? You're not going to have place for them? Oh, you're not important. Krishna says, I will tolerate offenses made to me, no problem. I'm God, I don't mind. People are criticizing me all the time. I hear thousands and millions of universes people criticizing me. I'm never disturbed. They're my children. But don't criticize my pure devotees who come to this world to bring the lost souls or give them a chance to meet with me. Krishna says, I can't tolerate that offense. And if you make that offense, your only saving grace will be to fall at their feet and beg forgiveness. And he says, they don't take offense, but I take offense. Krishna says like that. Haristane aparade tare harinam tomastan aparade nahi koedon. I will tolerate offense to me, but not to Guru and Vaishnavas. So, where to go? The glories of Srila Gurudev. These different personalities, Rupa Manohar, Prabhu, Madhuri, Prabhu. In New Braj we have festivals, and every day we have remembrances of Gurudev, remembrances of Prabhupada. But I want to go back to this instruction Prabhupada said. I am that you are. If you think about it, he said, you are here. He said, you are here in this book. What was that book? The offering of love and devotion, the best that his disciples could offer to him. That's why it took 5.5 years to publish, with so many people helping, so many illustrations, how many hours you put into that beautiful book, how many different devotees. The best we can offer. And we are offering it here in this form. If you look at the history of religions, the importance of scripture, the importance of the sacred book, it is a vessel for your faith. And it is based on the memories of your beloveds and the path guiding you to them. And so I was just meditating on how we can have these memories, how we can build new memories, and in my estimation, what I've seen from the Vaishnavas, the best way is to make an offering of love to them and live your life joyfully in that dedication. And so I was thinking of that today also in our Sweet Love Cafe. What a beautiful dedication to Srila Gurudev, right? Very sweet. Because we're always going to be doing something in life. We can't stop karma. In the third chapter of the Gita, in the fourth chapter of the Gita, Arjuna is always asking Krishna, you're telling me to do this work and I just want to give up work. It's so difficult. You say renunciation is good. Don't be attached. So renunciation is better. But again, you're telling me to work and I don't understand what to do. And Krishna says, look, you're bound to work. You can't live without work. Breathing is action. Breathing is a form of work. Stop breathing. Relax. Just stop breathing. Breathing itself is work. So everyone has to work. He says everyone's impelled by their karma to do work. You can say, I'll give up work. But you're impelled by your past karma to engage in work. He says, no matter how much you say, I will renounce, I will renounce, I will renounce, you are forced to do your karma. But you have a choice what kind of karma you're going to do. And you can do bhakti, which is a dedication of your life and an offering of love, sacred love, sweet love. Or you can just live your life doing whatever, for who knows what. Doing whatever, for who knows what, just lost. Anyhow, you're going to be doing something. But if you make your life an offering of love, to love, for love, then that will bring you to it. Because how else would life make sense? All life long, if you're watering a specific seed and cultivating a specific creeper and plant, will that never bear flowers or fruits? So if you're watering the seeds of envy or jealousy or lust or anger or ambition of material desires, material goals, those seeds will sprout, and if you continue cultivating them, they'll bear fruit, and then you'll have to eat those fruits. But if you water the seeds of love, and you take care of the plant of love, and you cultivate it, and you have protection for it, then what will bear fruit? The flowers and the fruits of divine love. Isn't that better? Anyhow, you're going to be busy. No matter what, everyone's busy. They're impelled by their nature. So this is our life. We're trying to make our life a dedication and offering to divine love. And this builds beautiful memories. I was thinking, imagine how it felt for the gopis the first time they met Krishna, or they were walking on the banks of the Jamuna with Krishna. Imagine those memories. And after lifetimes of dedication, of prayer, of devotion, they were born into Vrindavan and met with Krishna. Imagine those beautiful memories. Imagine the cowherd boys, how they were first playing with Krishna, taking lunch with Krishna. And it seems very far away, but the way towards that is, in our path, very simple. Just follow the love of those who have that relationship with Krishna. Just follow them. Following your love, like the flame is reaching towards the sun. It's very far away, the sun. But actually it's not very far away, because it's right there in the flame. That's what Prabhupada is saying. Is it that far away? You're reaching towards the sun. There's somewhere to go. There's an aspiration. There's an aim. But that is also within you. Because we cannot exist without our source of existence. Just like the drop of water is seeking the reservoir, the lake, the ocean. It cannot exist without it, therefore it's seeking it. That's why we also say we offer the Ganga to the Ganga. When we go to the Ganga, we take a palm full of Ganga water in our hand and offer it to the Ganga. We're taking from the Ganga and giving it back. What's the point? The point is where we choose to offer our time and our love, and we offer it back to our source. And in spiritual life, that is always specific, because we are an individual. The soul is a unique individual. And so in spiritual life, your relationship with God will also be a unique relationship with His unique associates that is related specifically to you. Because everyone wants intimacy and community and family. We don't want to merge with nothing or merge with everything, same thing. What's the point? So your relationship with Guru and Krishna will be specific, individual, unique. And we try to build those memories through the path of love and dedication. That's how we follow their love, because that's what they're doing their whole life. And in Gaur Leela, they give everyone a chance. That's one thing Gurudev would do, is it's not like we all have to just give up everything, renounce everything, and just serve day and night. You can, but even Bhaktivinoda Thakur would say, however you are, whatever you have to do, whatever work you have to do to maintain your life, just anyhow stay connected to Guru and Vaishnavas. It's a very simple method. And connection is simply love, some attachment. We're bound to be attached. So we should offer that attachment to something higher and stay connected to them through some offering of love and service. I see people who live very far away from India, but somehow or other they make a way to get there once a year, or every 2 years, or every 3 years. Or if they don't go there, their heart is meditating, not just to India, but wherever the Vaishnavas are. If they're in India, then you're meditating on that. During Gurudev's presence, I remember. So what happened for me, Gurudev came into our life when we were 9. And when I was 9, whoever else is here. I don't like to make it about myself, so when I was 9 and my family were all different ages, from 6 to whatever, how high up we're going. But we thought, because for me, since I was young, so just to give a few memories, because I don't want to go on forever, but I was lucky that since I was a little kid, some of my earliest memories are, so 2 earliest memories. One is a near-death experience. I remember laying on the floor of our van. It's a black van or blue van. I don't know. I was inside the van and I was bleeding out. And I had gotten a big gash in the back of my head. I have 5 sisters. 2 sisters we were in a laundromat. and they were playing on the chairs, and I was playing on the pole in the middle, swinging back and forth. I think I was 3 or 4, and there was a glass mirror wall behind us, and I was swinging back and forth and swung back and crashed. And so I don't remember the crash, but I remember laying with towels covered in blood on the van and everyone freaking out. And I guess I survived. Or maybe I was born again, I don't know. But that is a memory, and it's been verified by my parents, so I guess it happens. Anyhow, another memory is, I remember Mangalarti, I remember chanting japa. My amazing mother would have us chant a round of japa before playing with the kids. I remember it. Okay, you have to finish a round of japa when I was 5 or 6, and it was difficult. You get halfway around the japa bag round, and then 2/3, and then 3/4, and Haribo, finished. So, and then I remember we would have festivals since before I was born. We would always host festivals, because festivals is a great way to form beautiful memories. Gurudev loved doing festivals. Govardhan Puja, such a beautiful festival. Obviously Kartik later, but in our hometown, we would always do big festivals. There's some memories I won't get into, but during those early festivals before Gurudev came, we had a big community of kids and devotees, and we would all have a good time together. Sometimes I would be tormented as well, right? We all remember sometimes being bullied. Anyone ever been bullied? So we remember those things, but no need to go there. But it wasn't so bad. It was fun, actually, because it was with affection, I would say. A lot of it came from my sisters, so it was affectionate. So they're good memories, but we don't have so much time. Maybe another time. And I remember we would have visiting sannyasis. So maybe I was cursed since I was even before Gurudev came. I always thought I would actually write short stories in school and poems. And I thought, hope I never become a sannyasi. Really. I wrote short stories about it. Not because there was anything wrong. They were all very nice. The ones I knew. But, also I was born in the middle of the 80s and the 90s when the institution was also going through some turbulence, and there were a lot of leaders that fell down, and so there was a lot of things. But I remember they would come and I would play chess with them, and I was good at chess when I was a kid, so I would always beat them. I was 5 or 6 years old. We have some pictures. Anyhow, when Gurudev came, we thought, Gurudev is another sannyasi, he will come, our life will basically stay the same. Visiting sannyasis come, preachers come, we have a festival like any other festival, and it's all good, and Haribo. And a lot of people thought like that. We had a community of 200 devotees, and then nearby, like half hour away, there was another 100 devotees. We'd have Rath Yatra festivals, 400 or 500 devotees would come. This is in the early 90s. But when Gurudev came, everyone's life in that community transformed, because Gurudev brought the spark of real magic in life. He wasn't just talking about God, he was walking with Krishna. That's how it felt. Not just Krishna, but Radha Krishna. It really felt like that. I don't know why I feel like that, but this is my authentic experience, so I'm allowed to say it. I remember we would all, after that first year, we would anticipate Gurudev coming with so much eagerness. The whole year we were waiting for Gurudev to come. When Gurudev was a child, he had his astrology done. Imagine you were there and got to do his astrology. So Gurudev was a baby. He did his astrology, and his guru of his parents said, he is Chakravarti. Chakravarti means someone who the whole world will revolve around. He is Chakravarti. So it was like that. Wherever Gurudev would go, we would all wait, when will he come again? And when Gurudev would come to New Braj, all the community, we'd be preparing for weeks. We would have festivals with 1,000 people for Gurudev in 1997. From 96, we had a small 200 or so people. But from 97, 98, the festivals get bigger and bigger in New Braj, California. One time he came for 12 days, and there was over 1,000 devotees the whole time. And it was so beautiful, so magical. again, no time, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But when he would arrive, we'd be waiting and doing kirtan, and with so much eagerness and enthusiasm and sweetness. And when Gurudev would drive up, there would be 5 or 6 cars. Gurudev would come out. At that time, Gurudev was in his early 80s. He was so beautiful, so effulgent, such a radiant smile. And you could tell, at least I could feel, that it wasn't some kind of charisma that people can either have by good karma or develop. He really had this inner grace and beauty, and combined with following and hearing what he spoke about in the kirtan and the festival, everyone was swept up with the beauty of Braj and the sweetness of Braj and that culture of Braj Bhakti. And when Gurudev would get out of the car, I don't know why, but I would always feel, oh, here's Srimati Radhika's very dear associate, a very dear maidservant. I don't know why. It wasn't like someone told me to think like that. But I would always feel like that every year. And when he would speak and do Harikatha, in the early years, when I was 9, 10, Gurudev would speak, and mostly what would I do? Sleep on the back of anyone older than me. On the boys' side and the girls' side, we'd find a good back and nod out. Who has time for philosophy? We're not interested in philosophy. It's important. One time Gurudev said, philosophy is important. He said, especially for the men. And he said, for the ladies, just by cooking for Krishna, you can go to Vrindavan, go to the spiritual world. I remember he said, because he was giving all this philosophy, he said, philosophy is important for the men. And they thought, yes. That's why we're taking notes. And then for the ladies, he looked and said, for you, you can very easily go to Vrindavan. Just offer something nice to Krishna, have some love and devotion, and very easily you can go to Vrindavan. For the men, very hard. So, I don't remember so much actually from his lectures. But ever since we published Guru Darshan, after that we've been publishing all his lectures. And now we've published 86 volumes of his lectures. Not me, Vrindavan Brahmachari and other devotees who are helping, Vrinda and Rasikananda, so many. But this train is going on. Why? Because it's important. Because we shouldn't forget Gurudev. And
How many?
86 volumes.
Jai.
One after another. Why? Maintaining temple is very hard. And we did all this after going to New York. All these books were published. So in the last 4 years, we've published 86 books. It's very hard to maintain temples. Why? To maintain a temple, you have to serve Thakurji, you have to cook, clean. That was all doing construction. We're building a temple. I can't even begin to explain. You know how it is.
No.
The hardship involved in maintaining and developing temples. But there's so much grace and sweetness. But I always thought, sometimes I would get people upset because I said, the first kirtan we've done is the first book we've published. And until we publish a book, we haven't done any kirtan. I was there with our first team, 6, 7 people, and I almost had a mutiny. 3 of them. Hey, you're criticizing our kirtan. I said, this is kirtan. Why is it so important? I know it's so important because I have a relationship with that person who told me it's important. And I know how life goes. If you don't focus on what's important, time will drag you kicking and screaming to your grave. Really. Kicking and screaming, fighting and screaming, however, or you can just peacefully go along. But you will live your life and you will die. What are you going to do along the way? Focus on something that's important. And what's important? Those who you care for, who are your guides, they will help you understand what's important. And I know this is important. Therefore, this is what we're focusing on. And sometimes we have this one brahmachari, I have to draw a line around him. And I say, no one disturb him. You're crossing that line, you're crossing me. Lakshman put a line around Sita and said, as long as you're in that circle, no one can disturb you. You step outside, it's your problem. But don't disturb this person. because he's doing what's really important. Everything is important, but this is also important. When you get up, you have to wake up, you have to shower, you have to put on your clothes, you have to do so many different things in life. But one or two things should be extra important, and you should do them with care. And that's where strength and courage comes from. And if we don't just function on our own willpower, but we function on grace and the willpower of our guides, life will go by smoothly. But you have to develop some niche and some expertise. So this gets me back, I guess, to my story of being pulled back and forth between cooking and publication work. Because we know temple life, one of our main activities, cooking. And so anyhow, New Braj from 1996, Gurudev came and it was completely different. It wasn't like, there's, again, so many great preachers come and go, and they're very special and they're very sweet and very nice. But there's a reason there's a Jesus kind of person, and Paul and Peter and Simon, they're all nice. But Jesus is Jesus. And they know who they are, and Jesus knows who he is. And there's a difference, and that's okay. It's not, Christ isn't proud, but there's importance of following the shining example of pure devotion to God, who can really transform your life and give you spiritual birth. And so Gurudev transformed our lives, and we started going back and forth. When I was 10, Gurudev said, become a brahmachari. He gave me Diksha initiation. There's so many stories. I'm just going to fast forward now to the end. For anyone who wants, if we have time, we'll do an early morning class for just Sangha family here. And we can continue if we like, otherwise whatever. It's up to you. I'm just here to serve. And Basant Bruce spoke so many sweet memories, so I thought, let's go down memory lane a little bit. But I'm trying to fast forward because time is running away.
What's that? Illusion.
It's always night here in Lithuania.
Anyhow. When we went to India, for me it was very interesting, right? Not everybody, this is not a normal, like I said, when I was a kid I was thought, I hope I don't become a sannyasi. And here we are. But I'm trying to not be outside the box. You got to live within the box, respect the box, to puja to the box. But the mood doesn't have to be dry, disdain to material life or people, or people are bad, relationships are bad, family is bad, I'm going to renounce the world. That dry path, people can follow it, it's a legitimate path, but it's not the path that Gurudev brought us on. I never felt like I renounced the world. I just tried to follow Gurudev, and not by my own endeavor or desire, but by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And it was really, I could say, I've read, they say monks, there's different kinds of monks, and some can be monks by their merit, or their past lives, or their real renunciation from the world, and some are a hopeless case who can only do it by grace. And I would say I'm definitely a hopeless case, and it's only possible by grace, for me, not speaking for anyone else. Gurudev, it was almost like by force, kicking and screaming. When my second to eldest sister was getting married, I told this story the other day, but off the record, with more juicy details. When she was getting married, it was in our family house. Gurudev would come. Sometimes when we were little kids, Gurudev would come to the house because the festival site was just over the hill. Like from this building to the temple and then to the new land we're getting. Just right there. It's very close. Let's see. So, Gurudev would go on a morning walk, and sometimes we'd just visit the house. He would visit different houses by car, but because we lived close, he would just show up. And we would all sleep on the deck, for those who've been in our place, right? We would all move out of the house, and about 40 people would move into our house for the festival. That was how we would do it. Shamrani Didi and her whole crew would take one side of the house. So like 10 ladies. And our house became HQ. It was like HQ for the Rebel Alliance. And they would all be writing articles. fighting online of all the people criticizing Gurudev. Because this is also part of reality. When a beautiful beacon of light rises, all the lesser beacons of light sometimes will try to gang up and pull down people's faith. And so they would all be in our house, furiously typing away. And I remember, how would we connect to the internet back in those days? I saw a meme the other day someone sent me. It was an old grandma. I don't know if you've seen this GIF. It's like this old grandma, like 85, and she's on her walker, and she's telling a story. There's a speech bubble, and she's saying something, and like her daughter, or her usually granddaughter, is saying, "Yeah, sure, grandma." Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
So this is the meme. So I remember this from childhood, and my older friends will remember this. Vasanta Prabhu. Kids Radha won't know this story. But the old grandma is saying, when I was a little girl, or when I was a young woman, when you would try to plug into the internet and it would be screaming robots.
Yeah.
It would sound like screaming robots. And it would take 30, 40 seconds to connect. So it was like that in our house. We were surrounded by screaming robots connecting to the internet and furiously typing articles back and forth. Back then, there wasn't Facebook or TikTok or Twitter. There was one or two websites, and they were furious chat rooms. Same thing, no difference. In Gurudev's time, back before that, in the 50s, their chat rooms, their internet was magazines, and they would write back and forth 1 month after. Because someone would write a bad article about you in their newsletter or their magazine. This happened in Gurudev's Leela. They would write horrible letters against Mahaprabhu. One other group from Vrindavan. They would write horrible letters against Mahaprabhu. And Gurudev was in Mathura, and Param Gurudev gave him the service of publication, and he gave him a magazine called Bhagavat Patrika. And every month they would publish it, letter by letter. They would put each letter, so imagine we have this book. And each letter has to be put in it, and then you go to the press and by hand do each page for each one. They didn't have big presses that they would go to. They were very poor. And then they would pass out these newsletters. So these people wrote a very bad article about Mahaprabhu, and Gurudev was furious, and he wrote a really heavy letter about this Sampradaya leader that they had. And he said this person never even existed, blah, 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 etc., very strongly, because anyhow, not everyone is bona fide, we could say, from our side. And they were so upset that a month later, they posted a response saying that, we're going to sue you if you don't retract your article for 10,000 rupees. This was in 1960 or so. So it was a lot of money. And Gurudev wrote back in English and published it in his magazine. He said, if you are improperly, bogus, falsely, very eloquently he wrote it, not like I'm saying. But he wrote back a very elegant one-paragraph response and said, basically, bring it. Right? That was the essence. He wrote it very eloquently, but the essence was, bring it. And they consulted their lawyers, and their lawyers said, don't fight with Narayan Maharaj and Keshav Maharaj. They've won 50, 60 court cases. They've never been defeated. Don't fight with them. Just offer pranam, Haribo. Later on they made up, but still. How you make friends with the bully? With a bigger stick, and you stay where you are, I stay where I am, Haribo. And then once a year you send them sweets. Once a year you send them a kilo or a packet of sweet and some garland, some rice and dal, but Haribo. So Gurudev would do that back in the 50s, 60s. I remember in 97, 98, that was going on in our house. And we would all move out because there's 1,000 people were descending on this tiny little village. There wasn't hotels. We had one store in our town, and there was no gas. It was like you could buy a few things, and later it closed because there wasn't enough people. We're way out in the hills. We had to drive an hour to town. So anyhow, the point is, where is everyone going to stay? They're going to stay in our house. There was about 20 families, and everyone would just fill up their homes, and everyone else would stay in tents. And Gurudev would show up, and we'd all be sleeping in the deck. And we would hear Gurudev was coming when he was already at the house. So we would all jump up in our pajamas and go run and offer pranam to Gurudev. And Gurudev was so sweet. He was just like, oh, no problem. He was always very kind. We had like 10 of us sleeping out there on the deck. So anyhow, Gurudev had a lot of what we say mamata. I heard this from Gopanandini Mataji. She lived in our New York ashram, dear disciple of Prabhupada and dear follower of Gurudev. She said when Gurudev was coming in those first years, he would say, I've come for so many reasons. I've come to water the creepers of devotion of the disciples of Swami Prabhupada. He asked me to come and help them, so I've come for them, to help them understand Prabhupada, develop more in bhakti so they can actually meet Prabhupada in the spiritual world. I've come for that. I've come for so many reasons. But he said, I've also come. And he said, I go and I travel everywhere and I look. I'm doing everything else, but I'm also looking. Who is going to be in my family? That means the family of Srimati Radhika. her followers, her kinkaris. Said, I'm also looking and I'm collecting here and there, here and there. So Gurudev had a lot of mamata. He would say, oh, these are like my children. And he would take care of them so nicely. Gurudev, they would do such sweet drama plays. And all year, for months and months, they would prepare these beautiful drama plays of Krishna Lila, Mahaprabhu Lila, and Gurudev would watch these dramas, and the whole time he would have a box of Kleenexes next to him. And by the end of the drama, the box was empty. One after another, he would weep seeing these pastimes. Gurudev has so much love. Even Ram Lila, Gurudev had so much love. He would do a world tour every year, 2 world tours, but he would come to Houston where there were some Ram Bhaktas, and sometimes he would get a few days off, and there was a serial that came out in the 80s, or actually in the 70s or so, about Ram's pastimes, and Gurudev would binge watch Ram Lila. And he would, mostly dialogue between Ram, Lakshman, Sita, Bharat, Hanuman, and basically Harikatha, but with drama, with some poetry, with some mood, with some music. Gurudev loved it. And sometimes his sevak, Madhav Maharaj, he would say, Gurudev, it's time for bed. And so Gurudev would follow him up to bed, take rest, and as soon as Madhav Maharaj was sleeping, he would come back downstairs. He would turn it back on. He would tell everyone, shh. Madhav Maharaj would take such nice care of him, but he was also very strict, like nanny. When Gurudev was older, his diet was very regulated because, when you get older, naturally, you have to figure out how to maintain this body, no sugar, no this. Imagine we have one health doctor here. Many. But imagine he was in charge. Ooh, don't take this, don't take that, take this, take that. So Gurudev, later on, he wasn't allowed to eat certain things, especially sugar, right? Sugar, white flour, all the evil things that taste good. Sugar, white flour, butter, chocolate. Gurudev wasn't allowed. But people would offer with so much love. One time, one of the ladies offered Gurudev a tray of muffins. And they said, no, Gurudev's not allowed muffins. They said, okay, just put one on his plate so he sees it. So they put one muffin on his plate, and Gurudev ate what he could eat, what he was allowed to eat, and afterwards they take the plate back. So they took the plate back, and devotees sometimes would fight for his remnants. Not fight, but, please, can I have something? Those who are smart would offer something like cherries. Because what's left? The cherry pit with some fruit. Anyhow, this person got the plate back and thought, oh, everything's gone, but my muffin's still there whole. And they picked up the muffin, but it was light. They looked underneath, and the inside was gone. Just the muffin shell was there. The core was gone, but his nanny didn't know. So Gurudev was very happy. He said, very nice. Sometimes Prabhuji would smuggle him paratas, but it was a whole operation. So this was later, many years later, in like 2006, 2007, because I was there since 1996, but I wasn't part of the crew really, because I was going back and forth with my father. So once I understood the kitchen crew, and I got into the kitchen crew, we would see kind of the relationship and all the house drama, you could say. Because Gurudev's mission was huge, and Gurudev was preaching throughout the whole world, and so attracting so many personalities, so naturally there's some intrigue. It's natural. It's spice, it's flavor. But in the kitchen crew, we would have to smuggle Gurudev some things because he would come and see in the morning after his class. He would come and see what's everyone cooking, and we had a big kitchen. This is in Govardhan, big, beautiful, beautiful kitchen. And Gurudev would come and check, and we'd have these big walks because we're cooking for 1,500 people or so at once. So we'd have all these big walks, and Gurudev would say, "Oh, today you're making paratha," and he wouldn't ask for any, but Vaishnavas understand. So they would say, "Okay, this is our plan, game plan. You tell this sevak, this very important person has come from Delhi. They're very wealthy. Go and speak with them. They're waiting at the reception." And so, and then, and then under your chadar and a nice little plate covered, take Gurudev parathas. And then someone would come. Sometimes we would have to send a plant also. Go and talk to him. And then let Gurudev take prasad. So many sweet pastimes. I remember in Keshavji Gaudiya Mat Mathura, I was trying my best to serve in the kitchen, and I was kind of always in that service. But one time, Gurudev was in his room and he said, he would ask the brahmachari sometimes, "What are you doing?" And if he heard you were cooking, sometimes he would get upset. Say, "You're cooking? I have such big plans." "And you're cooking?" And one time he told me, he just teased me, not anything directly, but he said, "Oh, cooking, this and that." And somehow word got back to Prabhuji. And I was still young. I'd been in the temple 6 months, 1 year, something like that. And Prabhuji was cooking for hundreds of people, and everyone would want to be there because who wouldn't want to be there? It was very sweet. Such amazing prasadam. And he wouldn't let me come in the kitchen. And that was it. And I would have dreams of trying to sneak my way into the kitchen and being sent away. Oof, very painful. That's no. And that's when, after that, actually that was like 2007, 8, I started doing publication service. Anyhow, I ended up cooking in a different way, and I would cook for the next 10 years. I would spend 3, 4, 5 hours a day cooking. But studying Hindi, translating, working on books, Gurudev said, "I want preaching." Prabhuji is your mother, guardian. Prem Pradeep, he told a lot of the boys, he said, "Stay, he will train you, he'll raise you, he'll protect you, everything. But he's training you to preach. I want preaching. I have come here to preach. I want you all to preach." And so we would be very studious. And sometimes we would be afraid, don't become qualified. We hear people who become qualified, a charya party, and then pride comes and you go away and this and that. You would say, no. Even an ant is proud. Even if you have no good qualities, you can be proud. You'd say an ant is very proud. Better you become qualified and then learn humility. He said, a tree with many fruits bows down. A tree with no fruit stands very tall. The real fruit of learning is humility. So don't worry about humility. Learn, study, serve Gurudev. Don't study independently. I asked him once, because people were telling me, learn Sanskrit. You're in the temple for 12, 15 years. Learn Sanskrit. It's good. You should become a scholar. I say, so many people learn Sanskrit. Very good for them, no problem. But learn slokas. Sanskrit's there. The essence is there. You're going to spend your whole life running around in circles trying to collect knowledge. For what purpose? Learn the essence. Because anyhow, who has time for everything? Okay, we could say, no more class. From now on, all I'm going to do is speak to you in Sanskrit. And I'm just going to, from beginning to end, katham. We can, memorize pages and pages of Sanskrit. And there's people who are very qualified and very humble and who know it. But do you want to hear it? No, about Sanskrit all day and night. You want to learn Sanskrit, you want to hear English, or Lithuanian is even better. Your natural language. Tulsidas spoke in the natural language of the people. People tried to kill him for it, all the pundits. Because Tulsidas spoke in the vernacular of the common people. And his book became so popular, everyone would read it and weep. And people were saying, oh, they're not coming to hear from us speaking Sanskrit anymore. He's destroying our whole religion. Whatever is melting people's hearts, that's the focus. Learn the essence. Embrace the essence. Follow the essence. Serve the essence. Realize the essence. Then, without that, anything you speak is useless anyway. What's the point of learning so many big words without practicing and realizing anything? The famous verse of Sankaracharya, this is his last thing he spoke. He had his followers and they were so scholarly and so focused on philosophy. And he told them the essence. And he said, just Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda. Worship the Lord, worship the Lord, worship the Lord. All your grammatical rules will not save you at the time of death. He said, when death comes to drag you out of your body, are you going to be saying ka ka, ga ga, na, ta ta, da da, na? Dear death, ka ka, ga ga, na. Is that what you're going to be saying? He said, no, you should be saying Govinda, 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 Govinda. There's a beautiful song that we sing, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, one of Gurudev's very dear special songs. And one of the verses is, Jive Siddhaivam Bhajasundarani Namani Krishnasya Manoharani. That in your life, try to just chant the name of the Lord. And pray that at the time of death you can be chanting or remembering the name of the Lord. And that will take you to Him. Enough. So, anyhow, concluding, I told Jayadev we'd speak about Puri, but we haven't gone there yet. So let's see what happens. But it's getting late. So many sweet stories. What to do? We can continue another time. Yes? How to conclude? I told you in the beginning, I don't know where we're going to go, but so many sweet stories of Gurudev. One thing I've been meditating on here is that the importance of developing some relationship with Vaishnavas who come to you in your life, who are present in your life. This is much easier than some theoretical philosophy that you can't live and experience. So try to develop some relationship with Vaishnavas and follow their footsteps. Learn about the importance of bhakti and devotion. Life is going to pass by anyway. Happiness and sadness, it's described to come without our effort. Just like we don't control the seasons, happiness comes, sadness comes, good things come, bad things come. I remember last year in the ashram, we were talking to Prabhuji and there was some challenge. And all he said was, good times, bad times. That was it.
I know that one.
It's very simple. Good times, bad times. What else to say? Anyhow, you have to keep going. So, but you can develop some of your own wealth and property, and this is the memories we can have, the memories we can build, and we should try to build while we also remember, because that's good. So the main way we do that is through coming together, through doing festivals, through dedicating our life to beautiful projects. Those things can also maintain us. Very good. We have to learn how to maintain our own lives and give something extra. That's dharma. But anyhow, try to connect it to bhakti. Gurudev would say, and this is famous in our scriptures, most of our life, or a lot of our life, is predestined. According to our karma, marriage, family, a lot of this is kind of going to happen. However, I was never going to get married, I suppose. Gurudev told me, oh, it's your sister's marriage? You're a brahmachari? I was just 11 years old. He said, you're going to be a brahmachari. You shouldn't be there for the marriage. And he sent all the brahmacharis out. And then I was leaving. I was just about to get out the door. And he said, oh, no problem. You can come back. He said, she is your sister anyhow. So he allowed it. But the point is, a lot of this is just whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But you do have some choice, and that is really what you desire to do in this life and what you pray for in this life. And by fortune, if you come into association of devotees, you should try to water that seed of bhakti, try to develop memories related to bhakti. Everything else will go on. You don't have to work too hard for it. Many people work very hard for their material things, And then your whole life gets swept up into that. One of the glories of Srivas Thakur is that he would focus so much on kirtan and bhakti, and he would maintain his family very nicely. Sometimes Mahaprabhu would have different people give him loans to maintain the families, because he was so selfless, and he would give all his money just for festivals and this and that. And then he would take all the devotees to Puri every year to meet Mahaprabhu. They would spend a month or so traveling and a month or so preparing, and they would bring so many beautiful gifts to Mahaprabhu. That story should be given, that katha. But Mahaprabhu would go to wealthy people and say, oh, give some loan, give some donation to him so he can continue taking care of the devotees and focusing on kirtan, because that's ultimately, like that, something extra we should do. Like I was saying, we should do the books. It's very hard to maintain, but we should do something a little extra. This Sweet Love Cafe, it's like something extra you had to do. You could just peacefully live and all be happy together in the fairy tale of Madhuri Kunj. But something extra is there, which is just an extra little offering. And so that's always been Prabhuji's philosophy. Prabhuji doesn't believe in a little extra, he believes in everything extra. So this is also the challenge.
It's just extra.
But anyhow, it's a beautiful life. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubheva cha paridanam pavanebhyo Vaishnava.